Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining. Yeah, my name is Inigo Barreira. I work for Sectigo, which is a worldwide TSP, but I'm representing here Nimbus because of a recent study required by ENISA about securing movement or move securely the different trust services to the cloud. So that's the way of the title, Trust Services in the Cloud. And, well, we can talk about the cloud. Cloud was a trending topic many years ago. Well, as a trending topic, it's been replaced by others like the blockchain or the cryptocurrency tied to the blockchain. Recently, we can talk about the metaverse, which, for example, in my opinion, is a basic copy of the Marvel multiverse. But, well, is the cloud, at that time, what is the cloud? What is it? People look at the sky. Well, don't look up. But I'm not talking about the cloud. I'm talking about the trust services. And I made this presentation divided into three different areas. So first one is about introduction, which the current landscape of TSPs we're facing, the cloud alternatives, and the risk and threats we are having now. The second area is, well, what we can do as a TSP provide from the cloud, so which trust services. And the last one, because not everything is so cool, well, the issues. So we have problems with the standards, with the audits, and with the certifications. So let's start with the first one. Okay, the current landscape, technology speaking, well, the majority of the TSPs, we have everything local. So we have our hardware and software in our data centers, which could be own data centers or hired data centers, but it's managed by us. So we have the HSNs, we have the servers, we have the CA software or the TSA software, etc. So everything is controlled by the TSP, not a problem in that. Where else? But for sure, some non-critical services we are provided from the cloud. And what is important here is those services are based on the current standards. So we all follow the same requirements. We have been audited. We are certified. And, well, but it's true that we put some difficulties to audits and auditors. For example, we as a worldwide have different locations, and we have our auditors going everywhere. So, well, it's not easy to, well, it's some difficulties for them. But where are we going? So it's true that the cloud is there. We are moving some services, some hardware, some software, even critical infrastructures. So, well, that's the trend. And we have also to fight with those that are providing their own license to use the cloud. And the main issue is that the loss of the usual local, central, single, our own perimeter. So we all have those nice draws and pictures with this is our data center, we have these servers here, connected here, etc. So that is the reality. What are the alternatives? So, well, we all know what the cloud is or does, more or less. So we have these public clouds and private clouds. Well, this is an evolution of the typical, or the old terms of hosting and hosting. But, well, we all know these public clouds from the main providers, typical US companies, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, but we also have local cloud providers we can use. There is, well, we also have Chinese cloud providers like Alibaba, etc. And then we have this project, the Gaia-X, and a European project for a public cloud, but which, well, I think it was stopped for a while, maybe now it's reactivating, but it's still, well, starting. The private clouds is more or less what we were been using these days, so it's own DC, we have everything there, typical for governments, big enterprises, which can handle by themselves everything. But regarding TSPs, well, we have all those government TSPs that are under the same infrastructure of the government they belong. So, and finally, we have these hybrid solutions, hybrid clouds, which is a mix of both. So we have, for example, speaking about government TSPs, they have some, the critical infrastructures are in their own data center, but for non so critical or so strict, well, they can be in the public cloud. And we also have providers like Microsoft with Azure Stack, in where they provide both solutions. In any case, the risk and threats are more or less the same. I remember like about 10 years ago, I wrote in some 3 documents for security requirements for TSPs to analyze the risk, the impact, how to countermeasures, etc. And in those documents, we talk about the, well, we rate differently depending on the, well, the different assets. So I remember we talked about very impact, very high impact, high, etc. And well, those are the same problems we are having now and we will have in the cloud. So we see that the main impact is the key compromise, CA key compromise, the HSM's compromise, how to generate keys, management process. In a lower rate, we can see the RA or the TSA. So we know that different trust services or different products or components of the trust service is rated differently depending on how it's affecting this risk. And this is happening now and will happen in the cloud, but augmented, because the control is, let's say, different. Okay, so we see what we have here and what we can do. So let me show this picture, which is an old picture, very old one from the old TSS NetC. This is for the trust for the issuance of certificates, because even we have, according to ADAS, several trust services to be provided. At the end of the day, more or less, and most of them are based on this certificate issuance. So we heard yesterday that, for example, the wallet or the SSI can be based on PKI, on certificates. So the issuance of certificates is one of the main trust service. We can see also in the UTL, most of the TSPs are issuing certificates or are issuing certificates and timestamps. So this is one of the main trust services. And we see there are some boxes with different services related to this and different tasks. So have this picture in mind for the next one, because what we can do, we can provide specific components of a trust service from the cloud. So considering the last picture, so we can have QSCD for subject keys. We know there are an ETSI standard, 431-1, which allows TSPs managing QSCD remotely. We have in this, in the trust list, we have this QSCD managed on behalf. So, well, that's also used for the Cloud Signature Consortium for signing remotely. Well, we have those keys in HSMs. That is outside. We can have the same keys for the CAs in the HSMs in the cloud. What else? So now during the pandemic, people had to sign. Offices were closed. So, okay, I need a certificate. Well, but then we have this remote identification process that is being done in the cloud. So usually it has to be in presence. Now it could be through a video conference. And we have trust services providers that are specialized in this remote video identification. We have signing solutions. We mentioned the Cloud Signature Consortium. We can have the revocation service provided from the cloud. So these are specific components of the trust service. But considering this, well, we have the whole trust service. So we can have the same issuance of certificates trust service all from the cloud. So the same components, but all together. And with that in mind, what else? Well, the whole TSP in the cloud. Everything can be provided from the cloud. So alternatives, options. So a TSP can provide all these services from the cloud just by, let's say, uploading all the infra to the cloud, hardware and software. We also have PKI software providers that are offering their services from the cloud. For example, I put here the prime key example, well, key factor now, because you can buy their stuff, the license, buying the appliance, all together in a package, but they also offer that from the cloud. So you can buy from Amazon or from Azure, I think. But also, talking about Amazon, they have their own cloud system, AWS, they have their own PKI software, they provide it. So you can start a TSP from the very beginning using this one. So, okay, well, that's nice. Yeah, well, more or less. So these are the problems. So there is no certification for cloud services regarding the PKI. So, well, we have the EU Cybersecurity Act. Well, talk about cloud services, create some assurance levels similar to AID, basic, substantial, high, depending on the insurance, critical systems affected, the risk, more or less are in the basic, much easier. So I do a self-assessment that I comply with this, and okay, I maybe ask CAPS to justify, but in a basic level. It's true that there are some ISO certifications. So we have the ISO 27017 for cloud, for security requirements based on the ISO 27002 for cloud providers. We also have some standards, ETSI standards, well, the 431, the 119431-1 for managing a remote QSCD. Well, the same one, the 419241-1, also for managing in the cloud, but are very specific. There is, well, as I said, there's no one. And this is not only in Europe, this is happening everywhere. So, for example, this week we had a CAFOR meeting and we are also facing the same problems. So, well, what we can do? So we have to adapt the current standards to the cloud. So we have the 319403 for CAPS auditing TSPs. That does not mention anything about trust services in the cloud. There's a best potential case that, well, we are thinking on updating the DAS1 just to include these trust services provided from the cloud. But there's not. And so auditors don't have a standard to follow to assess these TSPs, or these trust services from the cloud, and TSPs, we don't have a standards on how to perform or to do or provide these trust services from the cloud. So the typical ETSI 319-411-1-2 to issue qualified certificates, for example, or the 421 for timestamps, or the 5FX. So all these relate to trust services. There's no mention to the cloud. Okay, well, And what we are doing, because we are providing services from the cloud, we are taking the current ones and we are trying to convince the auditors that we are doing things correctly, securely, etc. Okay, well, the auditors may buy that and say, okay, well, and what cloud are you using? Well, this one. Okay. And it's certified. It's certified, well, typically ISO 27001, security, nothing related to PKI. Okay. Well, I need to visit. I need to attest that. And then we is where the auditors find the issues. They are not allowed to enter into the premises. Difficulties because maybe your software data, wherever, is spread along, with many locations, or maybe you have, I don't want to talk about specific cloud providers, but maybe it's in one location, but the people who is managing is in another continent, so it's not easy to handle. So lots of difficulties. And, well, an auditor can say, oh, well, okay, granted. So, and also, we also have the GDPR, etc. So there are many associated standards and regulations that are not implemented. So, well, the good thing is the cloud is here. We can use the cloud. I think that maybe we, the TSPs, are moving towards the cloud, but there's work to be done. So we have to create or update the current standards for auditors, for CAPs assessing TSPs, and for TSPs providing the services from the cloud.